Hey guys, this is Sharad with REsimpli. In this video, we will talk about what is wholesaling, what does a wholesaler do, how does he add value, how does he find deals, how does he sell off the property and make money. So what is wholesaling? Wholesaling is basically finding an off-market deal at a discount and selling it to an end buyer, an investor, and make a little bit of profit on it. So the key thing to keep in mind is that wholesalers, for the most part, are finding their deals off market. That means they're doing direct to seller marketing through direct mail, cold calling, PPC, SMS, whatever marketing they might be doing. So once they get a seller to contact them and say they're interested in finding the property, then they're getting the property under contract, and then they are either assigning the contract or they are closing on their property and selling their property to another investor. So let me give you an example. Let's say I send out some direct mail, I get some sellers call me about a property that they're interested in selling, and I get the property under contract for, let's say, $50,000. The property is worth about $150,000, but I get the property under contract for 50 and it's worth 150 once it's fixed up in retail value is of 50,000. Number one goal for real estate investors or wholesalers that are doing direct to seller marketing is to get a signed contract with the seller. So in this case, I would get a contract for $50,000 with the seller. Now I know there is $100,000 difference between what the value of the property's retail value versus what I have under contract for. Now, the property is going to need some work. That's why the seller sold you for $50,000, given that it's 150. This is just an example. So, keep that in mind. But you get the property under contract for $50,000. Now you're a wholesaler. You don't want to rehab the property. You don't want to fix it up and either sell it on MLS, or you don't want to fix it up or rent it out. So what you will do is at that point, you will market that property to other investors in the area. So you're going to take that property. You have a signed contract on that property with the seller. Now what you're going to do is you are going to find a list of cash buyers and start marketing this property to your buyers. You'll typically do it, you'll add about $10, $15, $20,000. That's average, wholesale fee. You'll add $10, $15, $20,000 on top of it. Again, it all depends how much work the property needs. Let's say in this case, the property needs about $30,000, $35,000. You want your end buyer to make some money, and you send it out to other investors in your area. And there's an investor that's interested in buying that property for you for $70,000. And the final value of the property after repair is $150,000. If you're using multiple softwares in your business for list stacking, for buying phone numbers, for calling, for lead management, for driving for dollars, or keeping track of your financials, you're making a huge mistake and leaving a lot of money and deals on the table. REsimpli is one app that replaces them all, where you can manage all your business from one app within REsimpli. We offer live demos. There's a link in the video description on how to jump on a live demo call with our team member and find out everything REsimpli can replace for you. See you on the live demo. So what you will do is, there's two ways you can now execute this deal. You have the contract for 50. One thing you can do is you can assign your contract over to this buyer. Let's just call this buyer a fix and flip investor. So you can take your contract, assign it to the fix and flip investor for $20,000 fee. So you're basically assigning the right to the contract that you have to buy your property with the seller to this fix and flip investor for a fee of $20,000. Okay, that's one way to do that. The other way is to double close on that property. So the double closing would mean you would sign a contract with the seller, the fix and flip investor, for $70,000. And let's say the investor says, we're going to close in 2 weeks. You will buy the property from the seller for $50,000. And then you will sell the property the same day to the fix and flip investor for $70,000. So you'll make roughly about $20,000 minus the fee. One of the benefits of assigning a contract is you don't pay any fee. It's either the seller or the buyer paying the fee. So you basically net $20,000. You're assigning your contract over whatever agreement you signed with the seller. You're assigning that right to that contract over to this investor. The downside is the investor that you're selling the property will know how much money you're making. So if you were, instead of 70,000, if you were assigning it for 100,000, the end investor would still make money on it, but let's say they would make 30,000. Some investor may, get a little bit uncomfortable with the fact that you're making more money on the deal than they are making. So depending on how much money you're making, wholesalers would typically decide whether they want to assign the contract or whether they want to wholesale the contract. But let's say you decide to wholesale the contract, assign the contract. The downside is the investor knows how much money you're making, but the upside is you don't pay any fee. If you're double closing this transaction, meaning you will own the property for, let's say, half hour to an hour between, the first transaction and the second transaction, the upside is the investor that you're selling your property to will have no idea how much money you're making on this deal, because all they know is they're paying 70. They have no idea whether you got the property under contract for 50,000 or $1. They just know that they're paying $70,000. That's what they're happy with. The downside is because it's two transactions happening. Now you have to pay fee on the first transaction. So there's going to be some closing costs associated with it. So instead of making $20,000, in this case, you'll make, $17,000, $18,000, depending on the state that you live in and the closing costs that you have associated with that property. So that's the difference between assigning a contract and double closing on that contract. The biggest value that a wholesaler is adding to this transaction is that they're finding off-market deals. So the question arises that can you do wholesale deals on MLS properties? You can, but it's very, very rare. It's very challenging because MLS, once a property goes on MLS, then it's public information. Unless you're able to really negotiate a deal that an investor might not have been able to negotiate, then that's some value that you're adding. But if the property is listed on $100,000 on MLS, you get it under contract for 70. Now you're trying to wholesale it for $100,000. It's going to be a very tough transaction to do because the investor knows that he could have bought the property directly. The biggest value that an investor is adding, as a wholesaler is adding to investor, is finding the off-market deal that the investor, the fix and flip investor or landlord investor that you're selling the property to, the investor would have had to spend some money to find that deal. So the most important thing for a real estate wholesaler is to marketing, to direct to seller marketing, finding off-market deals at a deeply discounted prices. So the more you're able to negotiate pricing on a property, the more your wholesale fee would be, the more profit you would have. So you want to make sure you're targeting to a highly motivated list of people, and then you're negotiating the best price possible that you can for these deals. So that's a brief summary of what a wholesaling is. I'll be back next week with another video for you. Thank you.